volume. The Japanese are very quiet people.
I just hit the live button, so we'll talk like we're in a library.
Hey,
Hey guys, how's it
hey
going?
guys. It's going great, Rex, and yourself?
Right on. Good to see you, Drake. Good to see you, Styna. And I feel super honored that we have a chance to speak. And the fact that you are in Japan and you thought of me, like, what an honor. Checks in the mail, or I can send you Venmo. Much appreciated. So, folks, this is going to be a real treat. I've known Chris and Styna now for like, geez, 4 years, 5 years,
Yeah.
Nice.
around there.
Yeah.
I'll bet we've known each other in past lives, but in this life particularly, we've known each other for about 5 years. And really cool people, folks. I don't know if you've had a chance to check out Raven's Light on YouTube, but also LODÍ Ranch, LODÍ Ranch. Did I say that correctly?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a nonprofit organization that they've started. So Drake and Styna are both retired. They're both Army veterans. So thank you for your service. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about as well your thoughts with the current situation in Los Angeles right now with the raids, the raids, the protests, the riots, the psychopaths, and those that are trying to remain order. Japan seems to have a different vibe out there, doesn't it? Quite a bit different than here in the States.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
just starting off, right? We were the host family, and they actually asked us about how we felt about this and how they were prospectively looking at it, and to which we responded with, our view is peace. This doesn't make sense. These people are running around destroying their own country.
Destroying their own homes. And it just makes no sense.
So the Japanese kind of are worried that it may spread a little bit. The host family we were with was a 74-year-old woman. She has traveled all over, including the U.S., and she was deeply concerned about the spread of this idea of not you're destroying your own country. We don't want that in Japan. We don't want America destroyed. They actually love America as much as we do, and they're saddened that Americans are fighting themselves, and they've been fighting themselves. And that was definitely something that was brought up during conversation with her and her extended family, that we all got met and we were able to really enjoy meeting with, and they were asking us questions about it as well.
You're muted.
We lost you.
Thank you. What made you two pick Japan for your travels on this journey?
Well, Drake decided to take Japanese language because he's always had a connection to the Japanese culture and history and just some of the differences that the Asian cultures provide. And myself, I've always had a deep connection to the Shinto and the Buddhist beliefs. So for me, it was just like, it was an opportunity that kind of landed in our laps through his study of Japanese and through school. And when we were given this opportunity, we just said, we have to take it. There's no skipping out. It's an opportunity that can't be missed, at least for just kind of research and see what's going on, so we can bring our other friends over and kind of have an understanding of how the subways work and how the whole city prefecture thing works, so that we can kind of guide our friends into some of the cool places, the hidden gems that nobody really talks about.
Yeah, what are a couple of those hidden gems, or one of them?
Such as, most people don't know, but the subway system. Okay, it seems so elaborate, but it was actually created watching fungi grow. That's how they created the subway. And they learned through their systems to do that. And then the Shinto temples, they're almost like churches, but they are there's a certain mist to them. There's a certain mystical sense to them.
There's a vibe.
We were at the Mount Fuji temple, and it was a different experience altogether. It was completely different. You could feel the 400 years of people that have prayed. The energies here are just insane. I have had precognitive dreams that I've never had before.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that, because it seems like Japan is one of the few countries that almost isolated. They seem, you know, it seems very just, you don't hear a lot about Japan. It's one of the top nations for economy and innovation and technology, and the history of Japan is so fascinating. Yet the Western culture, anyway, we typically don't hear a lot about the Japanese culture and the innovations, etc. I mean, you know, we've obviously heard about World War II, and we've grown up to that in English, or not in English class, in history class, nanu. But it's like there's so much more, and I find it fascinating because the protests that are going on right now in the States,
Yes.
it seems like there's something behind the scenes that is orchestrating this with a lot of money and a lot of resources. And now there's talks of protests going on the 14th. They're calling them like No King protests or something along those lines, where 1,800 different locations across the states. Is that even possible in Japan? Like, I looked up the protests in Japan, and Japan has protesting, but nothing like here in the States. I mean, what would happen if people went into Japan illegally and then started waving their flags on cars that they lit on fire? Would they get away with that?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Not at all.
To that point, we were in Shiamaini, and there was a young 20-year-old sitting on his microphone with his me talking about his futures and the protests going on in Japan, and he was scared. He was scared about his futures, and people were just ignoring him, just walking about their day. And that was the most we've seen in terms of this social order. Otherwise, most people, it's very, very organized. It's almost like cogs in a machine, very consistent. And they're very, very tight about their opinions about anything, which shocked us that this host family, this woman that we stayed with, she was so willing to talk to us about her feelings about everything. So the younger generation is speaking out, but it's very organized. It's not the burn cars, you got to hear us, like it is in America. It is, I'm going to get on a mic, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to tell you how I feel.
Whether you listen or not, I'm just going to stand here for 8 hours a day with a microphone and a speaker and just speak.
So they're not throwing rocks. They're not throwing what do they call those? Motif cocktails. Their protest is speaking their mind with a microphone and a loudspeaker.
Yes, well, the Japanese culture, since they live on an island and they rely on each other for absolutely everything, they have a different mindset and a different life philosophy, because if they do those sorts of things, the whole country could be destroyed in months, because it is so isolated. They have to literally produce everything that they have themselves, because there's to even trade with Russia, it takes so much significant effort to do those sorts of things. So everybody understands a basic camaraderie, because they really do depend on each other, and they really do have to, they've all been raised with this understanding that if we fight, that Japan may not exist. So it's really different to kind of see that they don't want to fight. They still want peace, even in different countries, and it makes them sad because since World War II, they've just been opening up, and they've been closed and locked off for over 300 years. Where they didn't talk to anybody, they didn't trade with anybody. And so for the people, it is very significant to lose that connection to the rest of the world. And so with all the politics and stuff like that, they don't want to lose that connection. because they've waited so long as a people to just have that connection with other people from around the world.
What about like crime or violence? Like what's the feeling like out there when you walk around? Like, have you been to any big cities or like Tokyo?
Yes.
Tokyo.
Yes.
Yeah, we're in Tokyo right now.
We've been to the north. So our trip has taken us from the north end all the way to the midsection. We have been in Sapporo, Kanazawa, Fuji Yoshida, and now Tokyo.
And is it, tell me about it, man. The biggest city I've ever been to was, I think I was in LA. Yeah. I went to LA for just like flying. Dude, my trip to LA was anyway, not,
okay.
Yeah. Yes. Tell me more.
Okay. So we have kind of personally renamed Tokyo the city.
Mega City 1.
There is no city bigger than Tokyo in the world. And you can feel it everywhere you look. There's skyscrapers for miles. You can get on a train and be on it for an hour. And, it's just insane how many people move and function. And there's a certain order. It's quiet. It's a subtle order. For when we're in Tokyo, if you're on an escalator, you stay on the left side because you're standing still. You leave the right side for anybody that needs to continue to go up.
They're in a rush.
Yes.
They need space to get by.
And you will see this perfect order of people stand, no matter who they are, stand perfectly. And you'll see people, businessmen, young people running through because they have to get somewhere. So even the social consciousness of
where you're at and what you're doing and how your actions affect others.
Yes. And that's the biggest thing we've understood is that everybody's actions affect other people.
Yeah.
So to go back to the point of the gentleman standing on the post and talking about his feelings, that is so abnormal because he would be part of the group, but he's trying to plead to this system of we're scared. We're more scared of we don't know what the future is.
He just wants more people to be involved with the voting system and understanding how the political system, business, and government are really affecting their daily lives, and actually actively participate instead of just passively going about their day doing the same grind. I mean, when we came into country, it was like, I would say early 1990s America, where everybody's just doing what they have to do to get their money, and it destroys the humanity.
Some people are robotic. We've learned and watching people, they have almost an alarm system where they can get on the train, pass out, wake immediately up to their station, and just zombie it straight through. It's wild to watch people do that.
Is it almost like what, as far as strictness goes, is it a really strict nation?
It is
not outwardly strict. It's more socially inwardly, very passive aggressive. You'll get a lot of dirty looks, a lot of snickers or sound effects. And that does let you know that you've done something wrong or that something's not appreciated. And so from the Japanese side of it, they're very, very strict on the family honor.
Yes.
So if you dishonor the family,
that's it.
It's like the worst thing you can do, because some of these families are so connected to each other. Just in one prefecture, like our host family, she knew she was related to half of the town.
27 people dating back to almost 9 generations or more of this family living. And not only that, but she fed half of her neighborhood just in her garden. They relied on her to continually do this agricultural and feeding, and it was wonderful. And also I'd like to at least prefacate this. This is also from foreigners coming in and how we've interpreted it. So obviously there would be a whole different take from the Japanese people themselves, but from what we've observed, it was absolutely phenomenal to watch this woman, 74 years old. She couldn't keep up over her.
Now I'm a quick paced person. I like to go, 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 go. And this lady was outpacing me, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. That's a lady I'd like to be like when I'm 74 years old.
That's cool.
But that type of thing is like this understanding that just everything you do has its effect on not only the people around you, but time and space and history. That are you willing to destroy everything because you want to have a good time?
That's just not a thing.
It's not a thing here.
No.
What are the thoughts? Have you talked to anybody out there about the potential of war, like global war, like Russia, Ukraine, anything like that?
No, they're not really worried. They're more worried of
their economy,
the world balancing in terms of they see how the America affects the world, including themselves, and they're more concerned for us. They actually showed a lot of concern for American people, despite all things. They love American people. They love all people. Mm-hmm. And there's this deep connection, and they're more worried about us than they are their own people.
That's pretty cool, man. I've always wanted to visit. I know there's some megaliths out there that just look incredible, like that. What's the name of the megalithic structure that's underwater that you actually?
I want to say it was Yagata, I believe. I'm not sure. She's gonna go ahead and find it.
We had talked about you going and checking that out, actually, because you're a diver.
Yes.
You're both divers?
We're both divers.
Yeah. Okay.
What research I have done previously is it's about 30 feet underwater, so it's pretty much an open water dive, nothing too technical. Right off the most remote island of the chain, nearest to Taiwan, and they kind of treat it now as a national monument. It's not necessarily sacred, but when you hear people talk about it, it's kind of a different take. Like some people are like, yeah, it might have something there. We don't know. They're kind of hush hush. They don't kind of go against what the government necessarily says about it. But I think there's something more there. I want to take a trip down. I want to dive it.
Yonaguni.
That is the name.
Yonaguni is the name of the underwater megalith. And most of them are in southern Japan. But what we've been kind of having a sense is that they're all on the same chain. And some of the places that we visited in northern Japan may be a part of that. But the jungles are so thick, and some areas are extremely protected. So there's really no ability to go in and explore and find these things. So it's going to take a lot of like satellite LiDAR to kind of scan these areas and see if there is anything there. Because and that's another thing is maybe some of the geology that we learned is that Japan's not just an island that grew out of the water. It literally separated from mainland China through the Sea of Japan and just cracked off. So there might be tons of things just in the Sea of Japan alone off of the coast that we don't even know is there.
Looking at these images, I'm not a geologist, but this doesn't look natural to me. I mean, it looks like it was refined. I can't really tell what it is, but what are your thoughts?
I definitely think that looking at those straight edges, looking how it's cut, it easily could have been a megalith structure or even a structure that may have broke off, cracked, or otherwise. I've dove in some technical places, caverns. I've dove in deep ocean. Looking at the images, just from the images, I'm not seeing a whole lot of roundness or like it's been just a dissolved rock that they claim. Those are too sharp. There's too many cut edges.
You would have seen wear over time if it was natural rock. Even granite will erode with with the waves and the salt waters and stuff like that. But like some of these images they're just too speculative to say that something didn't create them. So if we're talking about 200,000 years ago, in the time of giants and the Nephilim and all that, it's certainly possible that the structure was above water at one point, and through climate change over the years and tectonic plate shifting, that it just sunk. So this is one thing that we did find that is new to science, is that the land not only shifts and separates, but it rises and falls. And because of that, how much of the Sea of Japan actually sunk. So with that, it's a very curious story. It definitely is something that we want to investigate more.
And dive personally.
And really look into, because there is a lot there.
So do you know anything about the actual composition of the rock itself, or the material of that incredible structure?
It would have to be hard enough. It definitely has got to be a harder stone. Just by looking at the images. Softer stone sediment would have broken up. Indigenous rock, anything harder, granite, would have definitely held up to this test of time. Anything softer would have degraded over time.
Yeah, we're talking is some kind of mix of granite and volcanic rock, because it's just looking at the texture through pictures, and working with stones myself and how they naturally grow. It just looks too smooth to be naturally originated. But then there's so many little particulates in it that it's got to be a composite of some form.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder what, like, if it's a base or a foundation for something, because it just has a really bizarre makeup to it. You know, I mean, you can't really tell what it is, but it looks totally artificial to me and totally out of place. And like you said, it should show more weathering. So why isn't it showing more weathering? I didn't know that about granite. I thought, granite could be something that could hold the elements pretty well, but maybe it's even more substantial than that. It's quite remarkable. Let me ask you now, this one right here in Japan, I'm hoping you all get a chance to go see this.
Okay.
Out there. Check this out.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I've seen that. I not personally, but I have researched something like that. Yes.
The lizard man samurai.
Yeah.
Man. This is it's a statue in Japan, and it's in the Horyu-ji temple, or it was, as you can see right here. And I do you know where that's located by any chance, this temple?
All right, she'll go ahead and pop it up, and we'll take a look at it.
Find it on maps.
This is something that I think that does not look like your typical person. It looks kind of like a lizard man,
Yeah, and by far we are not experts in the Japanese, but however, that definitely is a lot different from a lot of what we've already experienced here in Japan. We've gone to a lot of Shinto shrines. We were able to speak to a master monk who was just giving us a nice little lesson.
Scroll back up for a second. Let me get the right spelling on this.
Let's see here.
Okay.
Horyu-ji temple. Yeah, see, that might be some of the area, but that's really, truly unique. And I wish I had seen it beforehand. We might have been able to kind of break off and taken a look at it.
Let me see what prefecture.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah.
It's in the Ikigaiwa prefecture.
That is truly cool, though.
Nara, the Nara prefecture, that's actually south of where we are.
Okay.
Just I think 1 or 2 prefectures south.
How long are you all out in Japan for? How much longer?
Sadly, we're leaving tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay.
We do have opportunities possibly in the future, in this next 12 months, to return here, because we've made a lot of connections through our business interest and our nonprofit that are interested in some of the other stuff we're doing back at home. So we may be back out here much faster.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And
And we
have
got
you been?
another tinfoil hat conspiracy to talk to you later about offline.
Yeah. Something
Yeah.
something we'll share with you offline.
Oh, cool. I can't wait. That's awesome. What no, have they have the people of Japan told you much about like ancient culture or ancient history? Like you say there are more Buddhist mindset out there in Japan? Is that the spiritual overall, the spiritual mindset? That there's not, is there many religions out there or anything like that?
There's for the ancient people, and I'm gonna mispronounce this, please correct me, but it's Ainu people, right? Which is basically the Native Americans of Japan, the native people, and they were the north, and they had flooded down. Originally, they had moved through the islands, and then the Japanese people came up through the south, and it kind of pushed them up and kind of away and kind of took over, and then there's a whole bad history to that. But they are very in tune, much like our Native Americans, into dance and the spirit and belief, and they're very old culture. We're talking, I think I might be wrong, but I want to say anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, maybe even longer. But we had a chance to learn a little bit about them, and they're so in tune with Native American. It's almost uncanny.
Mm-hmm. Even the Buddhism, it came over from China. So it was, Buddhism itself is almost like Christianity here, where it's like their base understanding goes way beyond even Buddhism. So touching back to that natural elemental spirit, the story we learned about Mount Fuji itself, there's a goddess that lives on Mount Fuji. And if a beautiful woman tries to climb Mount Fuji, the goddess will make it rain so nobody can climb it. This is an actual entity that they actually believe is living in the mountain.
Yes.
So, and they believe it deeply. This isn't lore. This isn't mythology to them. This is actual facts. And so with that, the history of the native belief system goes way past Buddhism and what we as a Western world understand about how the Japanese people even developed.
And even on touching on that, incidentally, we were going to climb Mount Fuji. Mm-hmm. We were told that weather was going to be hold and we were going to be able to climb.
It's going to be a beautiful day, apparently.
And then rain came in out of nowhere.
Nice.
Even the locals were like, rainy season isn't for another 2 days. Why are we getting rain like this? Yeah. This is unusual.
But there is an age-old phrase we heard about the religions, which was remarkable, is that you were born Shinto and then die a Buddhist. And it's just the natural kind of order. Our host family, she was still Shinto. She believed in Shinto. And Shinto itself is, and I'm not even going to attempt to describe it because the Japanese can't even describe it. The way I found it was, it's not a religion, it's a way of looking at life. Mm. There is an energy in everything. There is a spirit. There are gods in everything. And they're there. They're not a belief. It's real. They are there. And you will go to a shrine and you will pray for something. We learned through one of the guides, her son, that he took us to a wealth shrine. And many years ago, this shrine was nothing. It was just a small shrine, no biggie. But somebody had actually won a great amount of wealth. And suddenly everybody was at this shrine. It is overwhelmed. Lots of money coming in because it's appropriate to donate to a shrine. If you're going to wish, you're going to donate to the gods. And they very much, it was packed for a tiny little thing. People truly believed that. And it was not for us to question. It's not for us to, I loved it. I loved the look in their eyes of belief.
I would equate it more to manifest destiny almost, where the smallest thing can have the greatest amount of power. We have a show called Warehouse 13 in which a single watch can have this magical effect on you. And that's kind of what it's like almost, is that the power you put into something can manifest unexpectedly. And if you understand and respect that, it helps put your own personal erratic energies in the right place.
Absolutely.
To grab that opportunity when it comes along. And that's kind of, from a Western perspective, what I could best equate it to.
Yeah. Yeah. And when have you had a chance to see any of the ancient symbols out there? Could they, like, are there petroglyphs out there possibly that you know of?
We saw
Yes.
many old signs, many kanji, so we visited Kaizawa Castle, and even in the rocks you could see the ancient, like, old symbols carved into the stone.
Yeah, literal petroglyphs into the foundation stones, like the first 3 layers of stone. There's little petroglyphs in them, and then the rest of the castle is built on top of it. So, like the pyramids, how old are those foundation stones in and of
Beautiful.
themselves?
It's beautiful.
Did they build on top of an already sacred piece of land?
Yeah.
Kind of what it sounds like. Have they talked much about the well, I guess I already asked you that question. So I would be really interested to know if the like Okinawa, I think that we're actually, that you both served in the Army. Can I ask what your, and thank you, by the way, that's
You're
pretty
welcome.
awesome. What did you do? I'd like to ask you both what you did in the Army, or what your,
Okay. I'll start. I was a 92 Fox, which is petroleum supply. I was issuing out jet fuel to helicopters, jets, things like that. And I was also a door gunner on a Black Hawk.
That's pretty cool.
I served, I was a 74 Delta, which was a chemical core specialist, biological, chemical, radiological specialist. Was working my way up to officer class. So I got to get a lot of good information about that.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. I know who I'm calling when shit hits the fan. So
yep. I'm a grunt, man. I'm a grunt. If you need in the field, you need field work. I have, just because that was my job doesn't mean what I'm actually skilled at.
A grunt and a wizard scientist.
I love it.
Strategist, operations specialist.
Truth.
Couple of badasses, right? Right there. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's a power couple for sure. Cheers to that.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
No, what do you guys think about the these protests and stuff like these that are turning very violent, very quick in certain places in LA? And real quick, folks, I want to let you know, I found out a cool synchronicity here, or a very interesting synchronicity. 33 years ago, if you go back 33 years from these protests now in LA, 33 years ago, there was the Rodney King protest going on. 33 years. Very interesting numerology there. Whether that's planned or not, I don't know. Maybe there's a higher divine plan with this. But notice the name, Rodney King, right? Rodney King. Protests, Rodney King. Now, 33 years later, the protests in LA are no king protests. And these 1,800 protests, or these 1,800 towns and cities and locations across the US that they want to have these protests, they're calling them no king. So we go from Rodney King 33 years ago to no king now. I find that very interesting, the symbology of king and down with the king.
Maybe look up the time frame from Rodney King to Dr. King.
Ooh, okay. Dr. King protests time.
The civil rights movements.
1963. So, and then March
96.
I think that the Rodney King was 93. 3. Rodney King.
Mm.
So it would have been 92. So we went from 63 to 92. So that's 29 years.
29,
right?
which is also a power number.
It is. So now then the question, so what, like, don't you have to feel like you're in the Matrix sometimes when you
Always.
find these numbers and stuff?
You know, since part of my first my undergraduate degree was in economics, so studying the history of how economies and societies are planned, when you look at it on a grand scale, you really have to ask yourself, is there not something more?
Yeah.
Because historic families, institutional organizations that are hundreds of years old, they know what they're doing. And do they strategize? Do they plan? Just like everybody else, they're thinking about how their family is going to keep control of what they have. So is it far-fetched to
Not
say
really.
that there's a control mechanism out there? No, not at all.
Not at all.
Could we be in this hallucination that we see a connection, although there's no connection? Possibly. I don't think that in our lifetime we'll ever get that proof. But it's something that we still need to talk about on an academic level, really lay the pieces out on the timeline and say, how is this connected? Is there a connection?
Now, how do you feel about the protests that are taking place right now and the National Guard being sent and the Marine Corps being sent out?
I'd be fair about it. I think the National Guard was a right choice. I've listened to the statements from the mayor. I hear the statements from the governor, and the National Guard was the right choice. It needed to happen. I will always be concerned for my brothers, the Marines and the National Guard. I have learned, despite my reserves about the National Guard in terms of just being active in the military, it's just a little rivalry, little things like that. But I'd rather see the National Guard in there. I've gained a lot of respect for them. They are citizens who have to be soldiers and then citizens again.
It's a hard share.
It's a hard share versus regular army. When you're regular army, you're a soldier through and through. This is what your life is. And they struggle more because they have to go back to the same people they may have had to deal with a couple of days ago. And it's tough. It's tough for them. And it's tough for us.
Well, it's interesting how quick people forget that there's been National Guard troops deployed on this, into multiple states for decades. This isn't the first rodeo. No. And there were 30 different states that had the National Guard deployed during the George Floyd protests, I read.
Yeah.
So when people are saying it's not constitutional and you've got these crazy people yelling at the National Guard with megaphones saying, this is unconstitutional. You can't be here. You know how wrong you are. Meanwhile, people are throwing Movtel cocktails in the background, and then you've got CNN saying, "Oh, it's mainly peaceful protests." Like,
no.
That whole thing to me just seems like an operation of psychological conditioning. That it's no matter what side you're on, you're going to look at that and say, "What's wrong with this picture?" They're all freaking messed up over here.
Yeah. In the end, the U.S. we're a nation of laws, and in this situation, laws are not being followed. State laws and
federal laws,
obligations are not being followed. And in these cases, the federal government does have to step in and say, hey, state, you're not doing your job that you signed up to do.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be protecting the people. That is your job. And if you don't want to do it, we will.
Yes.
And that's kind of that's the argument, is how much control and protection is the state government supposed to give to the people that live within their borders? And if they fail to protect their own people, the federal government's the last ditch effort that the people actually have to protect them, because they're not going to pick up pitchforks and torches. They're going to run and hide. And that's the concern that I have, is that in the situation there's no good answer, there's no right answer. And if the state governments and the local governments, city and county, don't want to do their job, then who else is going to do it? And who's going to protect these people?
Yeah.
Now, do you see the possibility of a civil war unfolding?
I don't. I've honestly, and this is my true vision of this, is that at the time of the Civil War, one of the bloodiest battles and the bloodiest wars, most of the world's ever seen, we've evolved from that. There will always be people screaming civil war. There will always be people saying blah, blah, blah. You will not convince me. You will not convince my neighbors. You won't convince the guy down the street that I don't even know that we need to go and attack our guy next to us. Only the extremists will do that. Yeah. Only the extremists. Most of the people that I've ever met, and that's including military, that's the Joe guy on the street that maybe just goes to work every day and that's all he wants to do. He doesn't want to fight. We've been at war since long before any of us. Since World War II, we've been in this consistent military complex of war. We're asking for peace, and if you keep pushing war, it's not going to be people fighting the people. It's going to be the people aiming at the classes.
Yeah. And the money funders.
The money funders, they are the ones pushing this insanity because they make a little bump, but they're running and hiding too now. Malibu, burned. Yeah. LA's burning again. I had friends in San Francisco. It's a tragedy. We're watching big cities, but that's the renewal part of it. Right. We need to renew. The 200 years, 250 years into our nation, some of these cities have been around since the beginning, and they're dying. It's time for renew.
Yeah, one understanding is that in any human system, there's not such a thing as perpetual growth. You cannot have perpetual growth. So everything exists on a cycle. And right now in our history, in places like LA, New York, and even Chicago and Dallas, they've just gotten so overbloated and so big for the functionality to even be efficient. So sometimes consolidation is necessary, and we need to determine what's really the priority. Is our nation, to call yourself an American, is that a thing? Is that what we all want? Do we all want to share our opinions and our thoughts with each other diplomatically? Or do we want to go in the street and duke it out like a bunch of animals? Yeah. And that's kind of where the contention is, I think. Some people just want to let the city burn.
Yeah. I would honestly say we used to believe the symbol is the American eagle. The bald eagle is the American symbol. This is a time where I look at it and say, is the American animal the phoenix? We burn and then we renew. And now we're something even better than what we were before.
Right.
And some people are feral cats. And then you've got some bunnies and a few donkeys out there. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, what animal do you resonate with? Well, I consider myself a feral donkey. I mean,
I'm more of a muskrat, really. Yeah. And it's lovely.
I'm a dormouse.
A raccoon on meth. Yeah, it's like
right.
Oh my, like, come on, people, figure it out. Yeah, I had it's interesting because I grew up, one of my best friends, like we were inseparable in early high school and late middle school, Chris Sadler. And we ended up not seeing each other for like 30 something years. When he ended up joining the Marines right out of high school, and I ended up being a crazy conspiracy theorist out of high school. And so I talked to him yesterday about like the situation, and what his thoughts were being a Marine. And he did a couple of tours. And Man, it's very interesting to get the perspective from veterans. Like, I love the fact that I have friends like you guys that are veterans that served, and you know the other side, and you know what it's like in the military. Most people don't have that constitution, you know, to do that. And like, I didn't want to go to basic training. I did the Navy test right out of high school, and they're like, dude, this is amazing. Like, whatever IQ test, I don't know what it's called. And I remember it took me like 15, 20 minutes. He had me take it, and I took it in this closet, and I came back out and I gave it to him, and he's like, you're done already? I'm like, yeah, man, I got stuff to do. And I did really good at it. They called me back and tried to get me to join, but I was just having more fun being a goofball, you know? Whereas people like you guys actually decided to designate your lives and time and effort. And you put a lot, that takes a lot to go through something like that. And then to see combat, to go on tours, to be trained the way that you were, I find that highly honorable, and there's different classes of people, and not necessarily saying some are better than others, but we have different qualities and different things that we're really good at and that we can focus on. So it's really neat to hear the perspective from the side of the military. You know, my biological dad, Golden Knight, my brother, he served a couple of tours in Afghanistan and infantry, saw a lot of stuff out there. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. We're so different, yet in some ways we're very similar. And I find that's pretty cool. What do you see happening then? Like, I don't see a civil war either. And a lot of people are concerned about that. I see it. It's kind of like a slow grind. I see that this political jockeying for position with Newsom, you know, he's trying. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs in 2028 for president. I can totally see him running for the Democratic side of things. And I have my own opinions. Like, I want to go back to that statue from Japan where there's that lizard man. But I don't see the samurai in him. Let's just leave it at that. But yeah, very, very interesting. We'll see what happens. But what do you guys see happening this year? Do you see more of the same, more protests, more political jockeying for position, or do you see the potential for more conflict overseas and the potential for maybe even a war, like a war overseas, not civil war, but more conflict?
I mean, I'll start, and like, just at home, I think we're clearing our throat. I think we've got 40, 50 years of this bad management, mismanagement of our country, greedy people taking whatever they could, whenever they could, and how they could. You know, that's just the way it is. But generations change. I think that's a post-World War II generation mentality: take everything, give nothing back. Yeah. And I know our generation, the millennials, I was always told we needed to be leaders of the future. Yep. And we had to think of that way. And then the next generation, like, just sit on your cell phones. You'll be fine. You know, and it's sad. So, but I mean, in terms of World War, I think people are tired of it. I think you're seeing this tired. You look in somebody's eyes and you can see the tiredness, and you can see that they're tired. They're done. A lot of this anti-government, it was always going on. You're always going to have people doing it. I think that the agitators are making it worse. I think there are plenty of people that are First Amendment exercisers, and I stand with them. However, I don't understand if you're going to throw a Molotov cocktail, bro.
You're not a protester.
I'm going to catch it and throw it back at you. That's not cool. No. Like, no. This is the now. So stop that right now.
Violence in and of itself is not a protest. That is not the diplomatic way to express your opinion. You know, America is supposed to be such a developed nation. We were the pinnacle not even 20 years ago, and people literally lost their minds because they stopped thinking. And going by the seat of their pants from one thing to the next is not how we grew up. No. So we've always thought about where that future is going to be. I think by the end of the summer, the people of America probably will end up saying, okay, enough's enough. If you've got hate in your heart, you need to go out to the middle of the woods and just go. Just get out of town because nobody wants you here anymore. And you can figure it out on your own, because if you can't connect to the world around you, then may the circle of life be had.
Or a boulder
Because
land on you.
everybody's
Sorry.
just done. Everybody's just done with the hate and the division and just the pettiness of these arguments.
Petty.
I mean, or maybe if you're that upset with life, like you said, go out in nature, take your socks
Connect
and
with the
shoes
tree.
off, give the tree a hug. Do it.
Give the tree
don't
a
have
You
to
will
tell
be
people you hug
healed
a
by a
tree.
tree, believe it or not.
Look, I hug trees. I do it. I'll put my feet in the sand and I'll put my hands in the water and give thanks. I believe the earth is a living being that has a consciousness, and like I think we're here for a reason, and maybe there's going to be a time when we're going to save her versus her always saving our ass. You know what I mean? Like maybe a meteor, a comet or something, and we'll come up with some technology to move that comet or that asteroid. We're called humankind for a reason, folks. Think about that. Like it's not human asshole, it's humankind. Humankind. Be kind. Be kind of it. I know it's tough. And somebody left in the somebody said in the comments, you can't always be nice. What did you say here? This person said, it was an interesting comment about you can't survive being good all the time. Why not? Why not? I mean,
well,
what do you mean by good?
There's a difference between being good and being self-reflective. Like if I get angry at somebody, I have to really ask myself, why am I angry at this person for what they just did? That self-reflection and that acknowledgement of what am I going through that made me so upset? And if you can answer that question first before exercising and vocalizing and physically flailing out, if you can give a specific reason why you got upset with that, it all comes down to like psychological traumas that you have in your own head. And then it's a matter of compassion for others, because they might be going through something you have no idea. They might have just lost their child and they have no idea how to manage that. Are you going to get mad at somebody because they're going through a psychological crisis?
Nah.
Good point.
There's no reason for that.
Or a lot of people are just, maybe they don't feel good, and maybe they're on a whole bunch of medication and they feel like shit because of their circumstances. So they might sound like an a-hole, and they might be being an a-hole, but it's because they feel so terrible. That's how they cope. So yeah, give people the benefit of the doubt as much as you can. I think that's really smart. And I obviously I'm learning. I make mistakes every single day, and I do my best to at least be 1% better the next day.
Yes.
And that's
at least 1%, but hopefully more than that. But I think that's what maybe we should all thrive for, is just to be a little bit better, to make somebody's day a little bit better or a lot better. But it starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with us. We can't just point the finger at everybody else. So like you guys are actually you're being the change. You've got a homestead. You're working on these nonprofits. You're going to Japan. You're going to school. You're learning. You're educating yourselves, and you're working very hard doing it. And you're expressing yourselves. And I find that I think if more people did that, that would be a huge solution to a pretty big problem. And that's pointing the finger at everybody else, but not looking at yourself. And so self-reflection is good. I like the way you said, kind of think about your own stuff before you bark back at somebody. But it's really easy if somebody pushes your buttons to snap back. People can be rude. And but I don't know, Styna, you seem to have like a mindset. Did the military help you with this, or were you just kind of always like this, as being really solid and like not letting anything ruffle your feathers? And if it does, you're not going to let anybody see it. Like you're gonna poker face galore.
Oh, that's just been a lifelong training mission for myself. Since I was young, I've always had a different thought process. People called me grandma when I was 6 years old. It's just my view of the world is just something completely different than everybody else's. But I do get mad. I do get upset. I do get frustrated. And in the end, it's just like, okay, I know if in that moment I say something, that it's going to come out really hard and really strong and just not appropriate. So that's one of the reasons why I rely on Drake so much, is I express those passionate feelings to somebody who understands what I'm going through psychologically and emotionally, so that he can help me translate and communicate some of those priorities. And it's, when it comes down to it, yes, if somebody's being disrespectful to somebody else out of sheer ego, it's something that really does get under my skin. But we talk, we try to hash out, like, what is it that's making me so upset? And just in that conversation, it's just like, okay, it's my personal beliefs and my personal opinions, and I can't put that on somebody else. That's me. So for me to get upset with somebody because they have their own little bubble over here that is completely off my own vibe, that's okay, because I can go over there. I don't have to be here with that in this moment.
Right.
But it's that conscious choice and consciousness of the reality of things, that not everybody's going to get along perfectly. We're not going to sit here and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But understanding that some people's energies just don't vibe with each other.
Yeah.
And if you can get to a point where you can understand that, then you can manipulate your own life to say, okay, this is a person that I know I can't be around because their energy's just not on tune with mine.
Nope.
And if that continues, then one or the other is going to violently react.
Yeah.
So it's just best to just keep your space, arm's length. I'll deal with you if I have to deal with you, but don't ask me to be your bestie, because it's just not going to happen.
Right on, right on. And Drake, you seem to be like more of the fireworks kind of dude. Like, you know, you're Rambo. You're ready to get in there and go. Like with the Jeeps when we were out in Hell's Revenge in Moab, and you're driving your Jeep up the Hell's escalator, and then you decided to go back down it and up it again. And I'm just like, okay, get the M60, and you know, you had Rambo, Adrian, you know, Styna. So yeah, man. And you hardly ever sleep. Like you can stay up a lot longer than a lot of people, I've noticed. Like you told me about that.
Yeah, I sleep roughly about 3 to 4 hours a day. Have always slept that way, and function that way. And I mean, I'll have my periods where, like, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks I'll need to sleep 8 hours, but 3-4 hours. But more to your point, I find it ironic that you did compare me to, or not ironic, interesting that you compared me to Rambo, because if you compare Rambo, he's a man looking for solace through war. He's seen things, he's trying to just get back, and the war comes to him. That is literally me to a T. I am generally a very calm person. You saw me. It takes calmness, and the rule is don't panic, to go up those hills and down those hills in Hell's Revenge with no experience. As you know, I did not drive that once before.
And base tires.
And base tires.
Yeah, that's right.
And
31s.
I do not panic. That's my first rule. If I'm panicking, and she'll tell you, and anybody who knows me, if I'm panicking, you should be running for the hills, because that's some serious things that happen. Otherwise, Zen, stay there, don't move, because I don't want to explode like Rambo and go down a pathway that is unnecessary. Most people will think that just because I'm a military, in fact, I've had people comment to me, just because I'm military and I'm trained to do what is necessary does not mean I'm willing to take that first action to do that. I'm willing to
want to do
or
that.
have any interest. You have pushed me to that point. And at that point, I've always ruled, if you push me to that point, you'll get everything you're going to get. And I'm going to give it to you with the most velocity, and everything else that I can push at you, because you deserved it. When I gave you warnings, I went out of my way.
Yeah.
That's your problem, not mine now.
So what's next for you guys?
Well, next is we go back to the States and we finish our castle.
How long is the flight? How long does it take to get back to the U.S.?
14 hours roughly
Yeah.
between we go from here to Seattle, Denver, and then a 4-hour drive back.
Okay. So is it just one flight or two flights to Denver?
Two flights.
Okay, two flights. So you dropped off where first?
Seattle.
Oh, see, okay. So you go from Japan to Seattle to Denver.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. That doesn't sound like fun.
It's
Sorry I brought it up.
no. The worst part of this whole trip, honestly, and it's been a beautiful trip, is they lost my luggage first day.
Oh,
Yeah,
did they find it?
They lost everything.
What?
Yeah, I'm the only one. Even
out of all of us, there's 17 people that flew out on this trip, and his luggage is the only one that got lost.
Dude, they're targeting you.
Oh, and that will be a conspiracy. We can
part of the
yeah. This is wild stuff.
Yeah, get your tinfoil hats ready.
Let's take his suitcase. That's Drake. We know Drake.
Oh yes, we've been to some wild places here, and we'd love to talk about some of the wild uniqueness Japan has, because they're just wild people. Like they seem so subtle. Everything is subtle until that tie comes off and it turns sideways, and it's like kung pao everywhere. We have a guide that before 9 o'clock he has already pounded at 5 beers.
Okay. So let's talk about this. Let's get it. Tell us a little bit about the inside scoop. Bonsai. Remember that Karate Kid?
Oh yeah.
Miyagi, totally wasted. Bonsai. I love that. That's like my favorite line.
They're so subdued during the day, and then just zang. You go into any bar, it's wild. Kung pao, sake flying, people drinking, having a good old time. We found a bar that has my last name as its like part of the thing. So we go in there and we're like, oh, it's a bar. Like, it's my last name. That's cool. And then it's like, oh, it's a traditional Japanese bar. And we're like, oh, okay. And she's like, no, a traditional tragedy. And we're like, okay, what do you mean by that? And it's like, well, you just paid for the 2 ladies at the bar to have conversations with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, what?
3,000 yen cover charge just to have that personal one-on-one interaction with your bartender. And personal experience.
Yeah. And
how personal are we talking here?
Like that we
I'm
get
sure
that
the more money flows, the
more personal it gets.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's rules. And there were, but
naughty.
But it was wild. It was just like, she's like, they're explaining to the whole thing. We're sitting here, we're like, well, it's not like old geisha, like, what's going on here? Like, and geisha, mind you, for people listening, highly respected. They are not like what we think of, like prostitution or anything. No, nothing like that. They are highly respected people, and it was remarkable to see them. But these lovely ladies were just having a chat with us, and like, oh, would you like to buy us a drink? And I'm like, well, sure, why not? We're here. We're kind of here now, so and it was kind of interesting. If you don't know, have you ever heard of gotcha machines?
No, but
okay,
tell me about them.
They're like
gumball machines.
Gumball machines. Okay. But the whole country's fascinated with them. Okay. And just today we were traveling through just the back alleys, and we found an adult store with gotchas.
Okay.
And when you got one, you got lingerie.
Oh, lingerie, nice.
Out of a gumball machine.
It's like,
that's pretty cool.
Open to anybody. Even a kid could walk down the street and put a quarter in this machine and spin the wheel. It's so open in that aspect, because it is really a part of their culture to kind of interact with each other on this non-tangible physical reality of things. Like, you don't have to be one thing or another in your personality. You can dress up as an anime character and walk down the street, and nobody's gonna stare at you or like think you're weird. It's just a normal part of reality for them.
Yeah.
And again, laundry out of gumball machines was like
and then even to the point where when we were talking about okay, I never knew why the Japanese were obsessed with dancing idols, music idols.
Yeah.
And we found out it's because the core of their culture is surrounding dance. Dance is part of their culture. So being a music idol would be like being president.
Okay.
Like they love it. I had the honor of sitting through a sports festival for elementary students from our host family, because the great grandson's father had to work, so they invited the foreigner, the blue-eyed devil, to step in, which I got some strange looks, but then they welcomed me, and we watched them, and this is like 6th, 7th graders, you know, and they did this whole synchronized dance. They were pounding on drums. They were having a wonderful time. I wish we had something like that in America.
Right, where dance literally is part of their curriculum. And from an artist perspective, there's so many, like, you know, timing and just movements.
Beautiful.
We think about karate and jiu-jitsu and all these things. It's
a
being
dance.
in control of your own body, as well as understanding how your movements play with the group and how the bigger picture is seen. There was one piece, I mean, with that, I think it was a symphony from Mozart or something, and they looked like a water fountain, these kids. I mean, yeah, you've got your little random sprinkles that just can't keep up, but I was moved because they all enjoyed themselves and they all wanted to participate, and they were all having just the time of their lives doing this. And some of these dances take really, really synchronized and timing and dedication to even put yourself in these positions.
So very much.
And as to do it as children, it's connects to something that's greater, that sense of artistic form and expression, and the tribal dance connecting your energies with the energies of the earth and the elements around you.
It was awesome.
It's very important to them that the beats and the timings and the harmonies and all that. Timing's everything. So dance is kind of one of those ways to express all that in just one simple movement.
The culture seems to very much so be masters of their craft. They want to be the best at what they do. Very good, very refined, no mistakes, minimal mistakes. And I think it'd be amazing to visit some of the megaliths out there. And I would probably get anxiety attacks just getting on the plane to go to Japan. And then when I got there, Tokyo, wow, I don't know, being in a town, well, hell, you guys are in a town smaller than I'm at, but you can go out there and deal with it. So I guess I'll just follow your lead. I mean, but were you guys nervous flying out there, or probably not at all, huh?
No, I'm
seasoned travelers. We kind of know what to expect, and kind of know how to read the signs, literally. If you look at your environment, you can see arrows and read letters that say go this way.
And I mean, the most important, and a lot of people who have never traveled here, in the mega cities, in the larger cities, there's English everywhere. You don't need Nihongo to understand anybody. But it helps. It shows respect. I cannot speak. I'm 1 year, 1 semester doing my own studies, and arigato gozaimasu means, thank you very much. Almost repeatedly. Simple phrases.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please, thank you. Hello, goodbye. there's only a handful of phrases that you actually need to get around. And with the technology today, we functioned on Google Translate. If they didn't know what we were actually saying in English, we typed it into Google Translate, and they got the gist of what we were trying to say.
Yeah.
Even if it was wrong in its context and its grammar, they still understood what we were trying to say, and to the point that they could at least respond back.
Yeah.
Domo arigato.
Mr. Roboto.
Ah, see?
Which is funny, because if you said domo arigato gozaimasu, you're basically speaking to the emperor. Like that's like so polite. Like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
God himself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Otherwise, even it's because there's like 9 different forms of politeness.
Yeah. Depending on your social hierarchy.
9 different forms?
It's I mean, that's amazing. I'm gonna venture guess maybe 5 to 6 off the top of my head.
Okay. And so the higher up you are in ranking there, the nicer you need to be to that person.
Depending. So what we've learned is like, okay, say she's my boss. Now I have to speak to her.
Which is true anyway, right?
Yeah, in most cases. So if I was to write and talk to her, I would have to speak one level above me, but then I would have to lower myself in a level of politeness to speak to her, to show honor to her. It's almost like you have to step up to step down.
Give me an example.
Give me we'll use the arigato. So if I was talking to her, I'd say arigato. Okay, that's more thanks, you know. But if you're my boss, all right, and I would have to say arigato gozaimasu, and then I would have to respond in something like, you know, domo. Like,
no, yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be something that
I could say to him, arigato.
Yeah, and I would be
just,
like,
whatever.
Yeah.
But not only occupational position, but also age.
Respect.
If you're older than somebody, then you have to give them that extra. Even if they're a day older than you, you have to put them higher than you.
The family dynamics. There's a reason why in like animes, if people watch animes on your channel, they're always referred to big brother, big brother, big brother, because if they're your big brother, you never address them by their name ever in your life.
It's completely disrespectful.
Yes, and if you're the lowest of the totem pole, like you're the youngest, everybody refers to you by your full name, like your name.
Interesting.
Like even parents don't do that. Once they're married, they don't refer to each other by name.
What? The spouses don't?
My husband,
my wife.
Interesting.
Hello, my husband. How are you today?
Yep.
Sir, if he's older than I am.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, one thing I got to say is I'm all for respecting your elders. And, you know, one thing I would like to see definitely change in the future is healthcare and as well as nursing homes and assisted livings. The people that work there don't get paid nearly enough. And the quality of care, in my opinion, isn't nearly high enough at most of these places. I mean, these are the people that work their whole lives and you know, sacrifice their whole life to take care of their families, their kids and loved ones. And now you're putting them in some type of room or some type of facility where it's, you know, you're giving them crappy food, that the care you're giving them isn't that good, and they have to spend their life savings to stay there for a short time. I think that whole system, I mean, I'm just ranting here. This is my opinion, but I think that's one thing that definitely needs to change. They should have the best quality of life available. It should really be their golden years.
Yes, I agree. And it's remarkable, like our host family, her grandmother's still alive, or her mother's still alive at 102.
Yeah.
And she's still going.
Yeah, and she goes and visits her mother almost every other day, just to bring her things that she needs. And
just to say hi.
Her own nephew, her brother, and his son come over almost every day just to be with her because she lives alone. Her husband died a few years ago, and so just that understanding of companionship, and it's like it's a family duty to understand that your family needs your assistance as a human being, and it's if this respect and honor of the family, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to take care of them, even if you don't agree with them or are interested in anything they have to say. As a human being, they need your help, and
Yes.
you're the only one that that should be first in line to provide that, not somebody else.
Yes.
You should be willing to volunteer 2, 3, 4 hours of your day just to go and check in on them and see how they're doing.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the culture out there is very calm during the day, but then when it's their time to play, then they step it up a notch, and they know how to have fun.
Yeah.
Wildly.
Yeah.
It's just the stories we hear and some of the things we know.
I mean, America is similar in that way too. You know, you have your button-up Manhattans in their 3-piece suits, but as soon as they get out of work at 6 o'clock, they go down and have the time of their lives on Friday, Saturday night. You wouldn't even know that they're a banker on Wall Street.
Yep.
Because they're they're wild themselves. But every Monday, 6 a.m., they're there suited up and ready to go. So it's not that much different. But they do while out a little bit more
much appreciated
than most Americans that I've had the experience and privilege to know.
Truth.
What's homelessness like out there? Do you see it?
We haven't seen it.
No.
Tokyo, the biggest city in the world, you don't see homeless people. Interesting.
Well,
we've seen downtrodden people.
Yeah.
We've seen people that you can clearly see are depressed or just hard off, but no homeless. I haven't seen anything. We've traveled from Akibata, we've gone to Chibiya, we've gone to Shibuya, to Shinagawa, and these are all just like mini divisions of Tokyo for references. I haven't seen anybody.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, go ahead.
There might be some socio-political aspects to that in which, you know, homelessness is not looked well upon. So police ensure that they're not hanging out on the street. But the difference is if they're hanging out on the street, then the police will take them to somewhere they're going to be safe and they can get the resources that they need.
That's what we've heard.
And they don't have to hang out on the street, and they don't have to be put in that situation where they have to fend for themselves.
They're part of the
system. Again, that culture of responsibility to your neighbor, or responsibility to your own people. This person's going through something. How can we make them safe and take care of them and get them the help that they need?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a very different and interesting environment out there. And maybe I'll go out there someday, but I wonder if I could just
take a sleeping pill
away, or a sleeping pill. Yeah. Take a sleeping pill before I get on
there. Away.
Is there a cruise ship I can take? Although I don't know if I want to get on a cruise ship either. Oh man, I've heard stories.
It's a much longer trip that way.
I'll need one sleeping pill a day.
Yeah, there is a direct flight from Denver to Tokyo.
Oh wow.
Yep.
And then once you're in Tokyo, you very well can take a little puddle jumper to a smaller part of the country. So you don't even have to worry about Tokyo and dealing with luggage on a train or anything like that. So
yeah, that's great. You don't have to worry about luggage at all.
Yeah, right. The amazing part is the delivery.
They steal your luggage. Oh wait.
No, yeah, that's true.
Or backpack it. You know, plan to pick up a whole new wardrobe while you're here.
When they lose your luggage,
especially if they lose your luggage. But if you've got 4 or 5 days worth of clothes in your backpack, you won't have to worry about all that, and you can just go down to the store, the Don Quixote, aka the donkey, and pick up some new ones.
Yep.
There you are. That's the second time we've lost connections.
Okay.
It was only for a second. So
yeah.
Well, you guys are awesome, and I really let's maybe you guys could be a regular on the show. We could do a show once a month or something, talk about your latest updates and what's going on and your, how you view the world and the current situations. I think it'd be really cool.
I think we'd love to. We love talking Iraq philosophically, casually. How was the world going to end? I don't know. Let's figure it out. But
well,
always tomorrow.
The world as we know it is ending, and it's changing and shifting and morphing, just like any other good organism does. You got to shed off the old to grow anew, and that's the period we're going through. Where this is the age of Aquarius, in which the whole mental space is changing, and we're all seeing something new and different. The possibilities are literally endless, and if we put the right energies out, it can be a beautiful future. We just have to try and be the change that we all want to see.
Yeah.
Right on. That's what I'm talking about. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Have safe travels back, and send me a text when you get back, so I know you made it back okay. And keep being.
Yeah, we'll have to come out and visit you.
Please, absolutely. And let's go jeeping again. Let's go jeeping, and
we have to
go look at some petroglyphs. Maybe go find some ancient civilizations, buried under the dirt somewhere. I'll tell you, I got a petroglyph tour coming up June 28th, actually. That's going to be, we're going to go look at some petroglyphs and ruins that aren't even on the map, that are outside of Mesa Verde, but they're not on the map. There's several panels, and there's this area that we call the Skeletor Castle, because it's this huge boulder that literally looks like a skull, and it's got ruins on top of it and ruins underneath it. So it's like a 2-story ruin, and it's super cool. So yeah, I'd love to see you guys for that. Folks, I will leave a link in the video description box if you want to meet us for the petroglyph tour. It's coming up June 28th. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's just going to be a day. So it's going to be an awesome day trip, and we're going to explore some cool native ruins. And on that note, be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.